My name's John Joseph Lysaght Jr. I'm a 1987 graduate of Parkway South High School. Where to start? Parkway had such an impact on me as a student. When I first got to St. Louis, I was 9 years old. And the idea of open classrooms and how everything was laid out at Hannah Woods, completely new to me. I was used to small walls, everyone got in there, and it was very regimented. In Hannah Woods, it was free, and that was really neat. So when I left Hannah and went over to Parkway South, it was 7th through 12th. So it was very large for the number of students there. You didn't know how you would fit in, and the teachers always made sure that they focused on every student there. I could feel that all the way through. As a patriot, well, maybe it's just dumb luck or good upbringing that, as a patriot, I joined the military after I graduated. Of course, I took a long way around. I went to Southeast Missouri State for 2 years and determined I needed to grow up. My mind wasn't where it needed to be for school. And rather than continue and not perform to my capabilities, I decided to join the Air Force in 1989. Probably one of the best decisions I ever made, because once I got there, I found a passion. And if I were to look at that passion and how it's driven me where I'm at today in my career, I was able to not just look at a problem and see the straight solution, the straight answer. I thought differently about it. Because all of our teachers at South, they drilled that into us. Dr. Berger in English. I'll always remember as we read Chaucer in AP English. Chaucer, by any standards, is a tough read. But as we read it and Dr. Berger would explain it to us, he would hammer into us that it's not education doesn't make you smarter. It allows you to see things differently. We're seeing what Chaucer wrote today, and it might be different than how he expected the message to carry through years ago. And so that's what education and the teachers at Parkway drilled into us, that when you're not automatically smarter when you have a degree, a master's, a bachelor's, or even a PhD, but you see things differently. And you're willing to accept different ways to get to the solution and to make yourself better. Mr. Joe Regenbogen, who I had for political science, you figure it's the late 80s. It's easy to be a Republican when you're living under your mom and dad's roof and have those conservative values. And I butted heads with him in class a lot over political science. But he saw something, and he invited me to attend some debate sessions as a member of, I guess, the team he was putting together. And what he did is, for both of the sessions, he put me on the opposite side where you would think you'd put someone with my political leanings. So I had to see the problem from the other side. What did that do? Well, it let me understand that there's two sides to a problem, and if you admit your weaknesses up front, you don't give your opponent an opportunity to exploit them later. And then you can move on to what you really need to do, which is to find the solution. So I'll always remember Mr. Regenbogen for doing that. Alan Hinton, history. Gosh, I had him twice, my freshman and my junior year. And he had an impact on all of us, on American history and how this nation has been built. What I remember growing up, 1986, he was one of the finalists to be the teacher in space that ended up being, I believe, Krista McAuliffe. And so, the event of the Challenger, for a lot of us, that could have been Mr. Hinton, because there's a lot of us who identified with him and felt that he was a wonderful teacher, and that kind of, maybe you grow up a little bit more when you see that and you're faced with that, and some could have been in that situation. Parkway School District, though, is, as we're talking to Dr. H yesterday at South, and I saw the wall that they have there of members of the Parkway community and Parkway South who have been in the military. I want to say his name's Jeff Kelly. He was a year ahead of me, class 86. I was in Turkey in 1982 at the end of the first Gulf War, and I ran into a fellow Parkway graduate. And, and then just back and forth, even was a friendly nation and all that. When you have someone who had that shared experience, even just a few years removed, it let you know that what we had here at Parkway is something special. And you don't always, outside of a small town America, you don't get that a lot of places, people who came from a larger community. And so that's special as well. I think people have that shared experience of being a Parkway graduate one way or the other. So.
Any advice that you would give to future Parkway graduates that might have an interest in the military or aviation?
Any graduate aviation, learn science, technology, and math. That's the way things are going. I'm working on a 5th generation fighter now, and the things that we needed to know to maintain a straight aluminum aircraft, our legacy F-15s, F-16s, and the A-10s, it's not there anymore. Geometry is important when designing repairs, and math is important when understanding just how the repairs need to get installed on the aircraft and modified. Joining the military, make sure you're in it for the right reasons. You're serving something bigger than yourself. You can't worry about the clock on the wall when it's time to go home. What you do has to be a passion. You have to want to stay there until the job is done, and then go home and share that experience with your families. I would welcome anyone who wants to join the military, but do some reflection. It's tough. It's a tough life. I see my friends back here, they've stayed in St. Louis while I've gone around the world, and I've got some great stories and the things I've seen, and they've been able to stay in one place and build their families, and so there's a trade-off, and you have to understand that trade-off if you're going to make a career in the military your desire, if you're going to do 20 plus years. If you just want to do a few years, serve your country, and go from there, I applaud that, and I would welcome that, because the experiences that you garner from a service, it's tough to quantify, but I think it makes everyone appreciate what we have here, especially when you leave this country, and you see how fortunate we are, even with some of our partner nations like in Germany and France. We're very, very lucky here in the United States. And until you leave and you see it and then you return, you can't appreciate that. So I would ask them to reflect on it and make sure they want to do it for the right reasons. Yeah.
Anything you'd like to close with?
I would just like to say I'm for the first time, and probably a long time, my wife will tell you, I'm speechless with this whole event, and honored, and probably don't feel I'm deserving of any kind of recognition like this. I just went out to do a job because, like I said earlier, I wasn't focused enough for college at the time. I eventually went and completed my degree and started on my master's, but I wasn't focused. And when you look, I guess maybe when you look back through the prism, I have done a lot of things, but you don't ever put them all together and look at them. So in a way, I kind of almost feel like, am I really deserving of this? Or were you guys there was no one else to throw in the stack that day, and you're like, let's give it to John. I appreciate this. Just the fact that we take an opportunity to recognize those who've gone before us. And hopefully, if I can one student watches this or someone sees it and goes, you know what, maybe that's something I want to do. I think at the end of the day, that's all we want, is to affect that one person and help them make the right decision and just go from there. And otherwise, I'm just proud to be a Parkway graduate.